Let's go to our guest in Abuja. Professor Agbo Madaki is Dean, Law Department of Bayes University in Abuja. He's right there with the Honorable Dachong Bagos. Both of them in the studio. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Prof, let me begin with you.
Thank you.
You know, this whole protest is economic, pure and simple. And the first question that I asked the other time, I asked our guest here in the studio, Mr. Adio, is whether or not the statements that has been made in these past 2 days have resonated strongly enough with government officials at various levels. We have 36 governors. I'm not sure we've heard the voices of 10 of them speaking to the people. Do you think government, be it at the federal or the state level, have listened to the people, heard them, and are ready to take proactive action?
Thank you very much. Let me start by correcting the impression. You refer to me as the Dean of Law of Bayes University. I think it would have been more appropriate to refer to me as the former Dean of Law of Bayes University, because I've existed at university, and I'm currently a professor of applied law at the Durban University of Technology in South Africa, where I do a lot of consultancy job in Nigeria. Right now in Nigeria, we are at a crossroad. We have practiced what I may call constitutional democracy for the last 24 years. And to that extent, for the consistency of practicing democracy, we can turn back chest. Otherwise, in the past, we kept on referring to as a more or less democratic interregnum instead of military interregnum. And the last 1 year, life indeed has been very challenging and difficult for Nigerians. And in the last 1 year, government has tried to grapple with the challenges of governance, especially inheriting the kind of economy this present government inherited from the previous government. And I think it is the cardinal responsibility of government to steer the ship of state in such a way that you move people from the turbulent sea, to more or less like El Dorado. And then government is bound to take certain steps and policies or implement them, some of which may not go down well with the citizens. Like you have a festering sore on your leg. Treating it on the surface, it will give you a healing balm, but the wound remains there. And at such sometimes it may be necessary to scratch it roughly, expose the wound very well, and have it properly treated. In the long run, it gets here. And I think that is the situation, or the quagmire, or the crossroad we have found ourselves in Nigeria. That is, excruciating poverty is a moot point. There's no doubt about it. Is government doing something about it? I may not be in a position to know, but I think they are doing. And like I will always say as a lawyer, it is the right of the people to express themselves, either by way of a protest, so long as it is conducted within the confines of the law. And the last not up to 48 hours, yesterday and today, Nigerians have been on the streets, even though not all the states of the Federation, like my own state, Benue State, there's no public protest. And I think the alarm bell have been sounded. And I think any sensitive government, be it at the federal level or any other tiers of government, is bound to listen to the complaint of the citizen, because government is there for the people and not the other way around. And I do believe that this is time for stock taking, and I do believe that all arms of government, be it the executive, be it the legislature, even be it the judiciary, it is time for them to look at Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution.
But Prof, let me tail on what you just said now, but your pronouncement about the fact that any sensitive government should have listened by now. Honorable Bagos is right there with you. I mean, he's served in the National Assembly for quite a while. So he should know whether or not, this is the kind of, because people have said quite a number of times, Honorable Bagos, that the only time it would seem like that government listens to the people is during protests such as this. Earlier, the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, was saying that, we shouldn't give coverage to such things anymore. Well, while I understand the statement, the intention of the statement that he made, the truth is we have been giving coverage to government for so long, and to a large extent, people have disbelieved the government even more. So now that the people have spoken, and we've given coverage to the people as well, do you think government is listening? Do you anticipate proactive action within the next few days?
Yeah, well, the most important thing is, first of all, that government should be able to understand that the campaign that all politicians made, and for you to get into office, that there was a social contract. And if you are now, unless you realize that that social contract has been broken at a point, then you now go back to the table that, look, this contract is no longer visible. And for me, with Nigerians, and what Nigerians are showing today is that, look, the contract they had with government in 2023, to them is not what it was signed during the electioneering period. But unless we differentiate between the electioneering period and with governance, understanding that once you get into governance, that is when you've signed a social contract, you'll be able to realize that. For me, I expect that by now, government's supposed to be in a war room, a situation room where we'll be getting daily feedback on steps that government is taking to address these issues. The issues that the protesters have brought to the table, is it realistic? What is it that can be of the immediate, midterm, and long term? And with the reality of the campaign in 2023 and the reality that is on ground now, is it visible? If it's not visible, what has changed? And what can you be able to do differently? So that is a communication gap that we are having, and which is on ground now. But is there a problem? Definitely there's a problem. But for me, I want to see the situation room of government speaking to the people, not security agencies. You see, that is the wrong narrative that we are getting, and that is the wrong narrative that government is getting. It is not the security agencies to engage with the people now. It's government that needs to engage with the people. We want to hear the president having a nationwide address. We want to see the president addressing the National Assembly. We want to see government officials speaking. We want to see every representative, senator, everybody going back to his constituency, having a town hall meeting with the people. Let's go back to our campaign promises in 2023. What did we promise in 2023? How is it now? What are the realities on ground? Let's go back to the drawing board and take it from there. Because if the APC administration will now look at what is on ground, I've given the analysis sometimes that, look, the APC administration won its election with about 8 million votes. But you have the PDP votes, you have the Labour votes and other party votes combining to about 14 million. So you have 14 million people to about build their confidence above the 8 million votes that brought you into power. So a lot of engagement needs to come into place by government. Let's see the situation room. Let's see the hunger war room that government has opened to address the situation, not security agencies.
I mean, that's an interesting phrase, the hunger war room. But I want to get Professor Madaki's thoughts on the way the government is handling this situation. The situation room that he's talking about that should be used to address the issues now, shouldn't that situation room have come in before, many months ago, at the time when the president came in preparation for what the situation of the country is and what expected outcomes there could be, and preparing for things like a protest or a riot, these sorts of conversations? Do you think that enough thought was put into this governance, considering the status quo of our country?
No, I think the mistake a lot of Nigerians make is to equate campaign promises to something that's so sacrosanct to become a contract. I think in reality, what Nigerians should pay greater attention to is the Appropriation Act, because the Appropriation Act epitomizes or encapsulates all the plans of government, which is no longer a promise but has now been made an act of the National Assembly. And it becomes the duty of all organs of government to implement any law lawfully passed by the National Assembly. So I think what we have in the country, which is giving rise to the kind of crisis we're having, is the failure of citizens to expect or to demand for accountability from those who they have elected to govern them. And then this can be traceable to a lot of factors. For instance, we practice representative democracy, or what I call constitutional democracy. So we have 360 persons in the the House of Representatives, 109 senators, and they have the State House of Assembly running to thousands of persons. As the case may be, it is the primary responsibility of these persons we have elected to represent us to have constant interface, like he rightly put it, whether it is by way of a town hall meeting, but to continually return to people to explain to them that this is the budget for this year, this is what it is for my constituency and for you as a citizen of this country. Once the people know what to expect from the government by way of the Appropriation Act, which is law, they can even go to court and ask for the implementation of it, as the case may be. I do not think government needs to set up any situation room. That is why the Constitution vests the executive powers on the president and the governor. And then, in turn, they delegate this function to the appointees, be it commissioner, the various statutory bodies or constitutional bodies that we have in the Constitution. And every other person must do their job. However, the buck, as they'll put it, stop at the table of the president.
What kind of magic wand?
Or the governor.
What kind of magic wand is the president going to wave right now that would make Nigerians feel like he has listened to them? Speaking to the people, that's Honorable Bago. Talking to the people, is that the way to go? Which thing can he do that will make these protesters and the 14 million and more who need to be won over by this president? How does he get them right now?
I think making reference at this stage to 14 million Nigerians is completely an abnormality. You know, the truth about democracy is that not everybody is compelled to vote. So only or maybe 20-something million people, Nigerians, came out to vote. It is such an insignificant number of Nigerians that voted on that day, as compared to a population of over 200 million. Okay? Yeah. But that is what democracy is all about, even if it's only 10 million people. But the truth of the matter is that now that the people have spoken by way of protest, you will agree with me that all arms of government in the last 24 hours have been responding in one way or the other to the demands as articulated by the leaders of this group. I recall yesterday also the National Assembly called the representative of Nigerian youth. I saw the chief of army staff on the television today. I saw the Inspector General of Police and so many ministers of this government. Whatever this person, unknown to a lot of people, even the armed forces of the Federation forms part of the executive body under Mr. President. So when they speak, I do believe they speak with the authority of Mr. President. As far as this issue is concerned, Nigerians even are not unmindful or completely are ignorant of what to expect from their governor. And as such, everything, all the blame is put on the table of Mr. President. I do believe that if all the 36 governors and the 704 local government chairmen we have in this country will play their role, do their bit, I think there will be less agitation. But if you also ask me, let me say it very quickly. I do believe that the time has come, probably for the president of our country, whom I believe has the interests of Nigeria at heart. He's been a Democrat, a renowned Democrat. I think the time has come probably for him to speak to his people, let me put it this way, to speak to his children, let me put it, in order to assuage the pains, the angst, the anger, and the frustration. And normally times like this, it may not be out of place to make some concession to the people.
I think that I'll take it from there, because I know the Honorable Bagos had released a statement urging the president to speak to the people. But before you speak on that, I want to ask this question. The level of disconnect between government and the people sometimes is perhaps not properly emphasized. When the president speaks, to a great extent, the persons who listen to him have access to television or, are informed or educated enough to understand what he's saying. Professor Madaki here talked about the budget. I promise you that a woman in the village, your village, may not know what that means, what appropriation means, and all that. So how do we build that disconnect, build a gap between that disconnect, such that the people there understand what governance is and what to expect of them, especially with this Supreme Court ruling on local government autonomy?
You see, Let me pick it from what Prof said. In every situation, you need a situation room. I stand on that, because even you as a husband and wife, you need your bedroom is your situation room. You take decisions before coming out. And with what we have now as a people, in terms of the budget that we're still talking about, when the 2024 budget was passed, the reality on ground as of then, be it the benchmark of crude oil or the benchmark of, it's not one per dollar. I think when the budget was passed, the dollar rate wasn't as it is when it is now. So now, the Appropriation Act itself, the reality of implementing the 2024 budget with the reality of the economic reality that it is on ground now is not visible. Because if the budget was passed within a benchmark of the exchange rate and within the benchmark of crude oil as of then, many months ago, today it's not realistic. We expect that, look, how the economy is now, the government, the president, and his economic managers to be speaking with the people as it is today. Go to the West, go to developed countries, a statement of the president or whatsoever happened can change the exchange rate, can change what happens in the stock market within 24 hours. If it were in the West, just with this protest, will shake the stock market. But the economic situation, like the economists that were speaking earlier on through Zoom, that is the true situation of where we are today. Status of what you have in Nigeria depends on status of what you or who you are in office. But go to the West, a janitor that has saved his money for 20 years can afford a house in Maitama because he has saved. But today you must be in a position before you could be able to associate or to get whatsoever you think you are going to have be able to get. But the economic situation should be able to bridge the gap between the poor and the rich. Today, we don't even talk about the middle class again. The middle class is nowhere to be found in terms of the economic situation. What are we talking about? The exportation. Look at the studio today. What is it was produced in Nigeria that we all rely on import? So those are the economic situations that I'm looking at, that the president is supposed to be talking to us. These are the economic modalities that we are looking at as a people. But if we continue in this trajectory without looking at export, without being a productive country, we will remain where we are. There is no any political campaign promise that will change the trajectory without us looking at the situation in reality. Since 1960, we have been talking about water, we have been talking about electricity, but while the West are talking about improved, now the developed countries are talking about renewable energy, talking about save water, but we are still looking at hydro, we're still looking at how to get, so we need to go back to the drawing board to look at the economic, the foundation must be rejected and get these things.
Before we let you go, just your take, Honorable Bagos, on the protest so far.
Well, for me, any echo of protests and any echo of not being happy about anything is an echo for transparency and accountability.
I'm talking about the fact that there's a lot of looting that started happening in parts of the country. And then, of course, we're seeing the security agencies.
Predominantly in the north.
Yes. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And that's why when I say that, look, the president in the situation room should give us an immediate solution before the midterm. Now, what are we talking about? Every Nigerian now is talking about what food he will get on the table. And those are the issues why those people are out looting. And it needs to be
looting chairs.
Yeah,
they are looting chairs.
It needs to be addressed. And that's the unfortunate part of, look, who are the real protesters and who are criminals? These are the people that need to be identified.
Just so we can get an idea, because this situation has been going on for a very long time. We have too many miscreants and hoodlums, so to speak. These are the names that we're hearing these days, but there's so many of them. in Nigeria. What kinds of thinking should the leaders, especially in northern Nigeria, be using right now? Because if a situation will come when you will not be able to rein in this crowd.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that criminality, and people who are criminogenic should not be justified under any condition, be it psychological or not, as the case may be. Because the truth of the matter is that every citizen of Nigeria, any person resident in Nigeria, is supposed to obey the law. So whereas the Constitution allows for peaceful protest, any act of criminality carried out in the course of the protest is a violation of our law, and then it should be so accordingly treated. When you loot, what are you doing? You are dispossessing somebody of his property. Okay, look at that gory image of a young man in Kano climbing the traffic line using cutlass as if it's inflicting pain, you know, on something that feels pain. You know, but if you ask me, the challenge we have in the north, I'm from the north central Benue State. Up till now, as I speak to you, we have over 10.4 million children out of school in northern Nigeria. In northeast Nigeria, only 47.5% of years are in school. In northwest, the statistics is not any different. In Boronu, the literacy level, and I stand to be corrected, the literacy level is less than 25%. So the system we have in the north that encourage children not to go to school and discourage those who are in school to pull out of school, except we do away with such system, the northern part of Nigeria will continue to breed this group of children that are called amajoris, that it is so easy to radicalize their mind. These are children that are totally disconnected from any form of family value system. And as such, when there's this type of protest or any crisis, they tend to leverage on it to release mayhem on the people. And I think the time has come for all the governors in the extreme north to pay attention to this scourge of out-of-school children, to this scourge of amajirism, as the case may be. Previous attempt by government has failed, but I think something can be done about it. So long as they see these children as very valuable tool to use to win election and not encourage them to go back to school, the North is sitting on a very big...
just so that we can add that Jafar Issa is the former governor of Kaduna State, is the one who's in charge of the Alamajiri transformation, so to speak. He was appointed to be able to handle this out-of-school children and then to make sure that these kids are streamlined and taught and, you know, made into, you know, productive members of society. Your final words, Honorable Bagos, before...
Since it's your final word, from what Kila had said, with regard to education, it's also one of the demands of the protesters, one of which is that...
Free education.
Yeah, free education, and that public officials should ensure that their children go to public schools, and this has been canvassed severally, believing that this will improve education in the country. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, quite true, because if you look at most of our leaders today, most of them enjoyed free education, public schools. So why can't we have what they had at that particular moment? Look at the UBEC and SUBEP's budget and appropriation. You see a lot of schools are being renovated and are being built on yearly basis. Why is it that children cannot access and cannot be in school as of when it is, as of when due? Education really and truly is one of our major problems, because once the young ones and the future generation are being educated, you'll be able to see that, look, most of these issues that we are having will be breached. But the one of the major problems we are having is lack of education. And truth be told, corruption has been one of the major problems in the educational sector as well.
I'd like to say a very big thank you to both of you for finding time to be here today. Honorable Dachung Bagos, how do you feel when you're called?
Yeah, well,
once an honorable.
I feel, you know, I'm free as a bed in the sense that, look, I can do what I need to do, but then...
to not call you that. Honorable Dachung Bagos, a former member of the House of Representatives, thank you very much for your time. And Professor Gumaraki, thank you so much for coming as well. Professor, an international human rights lawyer. Thank you.
Maybe I will switch to the academia to be called prof instead of
Well, thank you very much for your time as well. That's a wrap from the Abuja end of this. Our Lagos colleagues will take over. I am Terry Ikumi.
And of course, Shane will be here at 7. So enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm Kayla Megwa.
We'll be right back after this break.